Let's queer up the top stories of the year. This is number 22 of 2025. Trump-controlled Kennedy Center cancels all WorldPride events. We discussed this story on April 29th. We recall how WorldPride 2025 hit a major roadblock when key events were moved from the Kennedy Center after sweeping changes and new restrictions under President Donald Trump. Canceled programs, protests, and sponsor withdrawals reshaped the festival's plans, but organizers affirmed that Pride would continue downtown.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Vaughn Biggs, and let's queer up politics. Trump's Kennedy Center cancels all WorldPride events just weeks before start. WorldPride 2025 has hit a major roadblock just weeks before kickoff. Organizers are forced to move several key LGBTQ events out of the Kennedy Center for the performing arts. Many are saying it is due to a politically motivated cultural purge led by President Donald Trump. Trump's sweeping changes at the Kennedy Center began early this year when he fired President Deborah Rutter, dissolved the bipartisan board, and installed loyalists, including Second Lady Usha Vance and longtime operative Dan Scavino. He then appointed himself chairman and created a new executive director role for Richard Grinnell, a MAGA loyalist with no arts administration experience. In a February Truth Social post, Trump vowed, quote, "No more drag shows or other anti-American propaganda," end quote, claiming to return to the so-called, quote, "golden age of American arts and culture," end quote. Now, WorldPride LGBTQ+ programs like the AIDS Memorial Quilt Display, a drag story hour, and Pride concerts have been scrubbed from the Kennedy Center calendar. The Capital Pride Alliance confirmed the programming will now relocate to downtown D.C. Other events like the International Pride Orchestra concert and the National Symphony Orchestra Pride collaboration were also abruptly canceled or removed without explanation. Protests have erupted outside the Kennedy Center, and several artists, including Issa Rae, have pulled out. Queer organizers and sponsors have voiced concerns. The EGAL Canada withdrawing and Booz Allen Hamilton cutting financial support, Capital Pride Alliance and international governments have issued warnings about the Trump administration's new rules requiring all visa applicants to declare their sex assigned at birth and banning ex-gender passports. Still, worldwide Pride will go on. While President Trump's vision of what he called, quote, "a golden age of American arts and culture," and, quote, "no more drag shows or other anti-American propaganda," end quote, history reveals that drag has been a vital part of American arts and culture for centuries, enriching its diversity. From its early roots in ancient Greece to Japan to Shakespearean theater, drag has evolved through vaudeville in the early 20th century, the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s and 1930s, especially within the Black and Latinx community, LGBTQ+ communities, the Stonewall Uprising and drag revolution of the 1969, and into the modern era with shows like RuPaul Drag Race, bringing drag culture into the mainstream. To our community, I say, we have proven we will not be erased. And that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. And, important. The world, it's World Pride, for goodness sakes. Mm-hmm. The world is looking at America, and we're losing our identity. Mm-hmm. And it's really a shame. Next World Pride certainly isn't going to be in the United States. These big international events are going to start happening elsewhere.
Right.
And it's really a shame. I just keep shaking my head at so many things that, you're talking about arts and culture. First of all, arts and culture bring in billions of dollars to communities around the country, far more than what Trump is cutting. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to not recognize this.
Yeah, I've attended World Pride in Spain and in New York, which was the 50th anniversary for Stonewall, and to see the international community that ascends on these cities and brings together, you know, diverse people, allies of our community. I mean, I would say I was most impressed, again, being in Spain for WorldPride in Madrid. The city, it was an LGBTQ event, but it wasn't. It was a street festival for the city. There were people with babies on the street with their kids watching the parade. I mean, it was such a family event. And it's really sad that, you know, in America, where we stand for or what our country has stood for, to be the place that is really kind of, you know, taking a dump on WorldPride by our president. It's unfortunate that DC got to host it this year. I mean, it's a confluence of events that's really sad. What I'm most upset about, though, is I think, you know, I watched a story last night. You know, they're trying to cancel the Pride event in Hungary under another wannabe dictator, Viktor Orban, and they're protesting, I believe, once a week against the attempt to cancel Pride. And, you know, I hope we see that this WorldPride event has a lot of protest in it, because again, it is what Pride is about. But I hope we see more protests. I hope we see protests at the Kennedy Center.
They're already they're there already. It's happening already.
You know, I just hope that if you can catch the story, Alex Wagner did it last night about the protests in Hungary about Pride. I think our community needs to take note of that, because I do still feel like there's a lot of complacency, like, oh, it's not that bad yet. And look at this event of WorldPride, you know, kicking us out of the Kennedy Center, you know, for these iconic performances that people have paid money already to come to the United States or come to Washington, D.C. to attend, and may have never even been to the Kennedy Center before and had their opportunity to go, and now, you know, the events are canceled.
I mean, another thing, right, so this gives parallels to a certain period of time, right? You know, on October 5th, 1938, right, you know, Nazi leaders in Berlin, you know, they stamped a J, you know, on the Jewish community, on members of the Jewish community. It's the same thing with the passports right now with the members of the trans community. You know, they also did that with theater, right? So on November 9th through the 10th, right, in 1938, you know, the Nazi legislation barred Jews from public schools, cinemas, theaters, and sports facilities. So we're right now into a period of history where things are repeating themselves, and I mean, it's scary, right? It's not just members, like people like, oh, but it's just the trans community. No, we're a community.
And so what if it is just the trans community? It's human beings. And, you know, I think one of the things that we as a community have done, or at least, you know, I don't just march for LGBT. I march for whoever needs to be marched for. I'm sorry, I know I kind of interrupted you, but, you know, we need to stand up for everybody who is being hurt right now, who is marginalized, because just as in the case of the rabbi who wrote the poem, you know, first they came for the Unionists, and you know, and then they came for me, and there was no one left. So, you know, we need to have solidarity. And there was a sign at one of the marches I went to. It said, "They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds." So I know no one ever gave us anything in the first place. We fought for every right that we have achieved. We'll do it again. And I mean, there's no doubt we'll do it again.
We are bringing you a special presentation of the 25 most important stories of the year that we call the Top 25 of 2025. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight